hope you're doing fine. I'm doing fine as well. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the next session on RabbitMQ. So initially we did a session where we talked about how to run RabbitMQ, how to play around with the UI before you even touch the actual code. And in this session now, we're gonna write a simple hello world in RabbitMQ without the UI. Of course, we'll have to look at how the messages are look like in the UI, but now this is us writing actual Spring Boot code and getting to see how things actually look like. So the things we did here, we created a queue, played around with an exchange, and then we wrote a very simple message. We also got a simple message from it, and yeah, everything worked fine. So in this session now, of course, it's gonna be a mix of what I'm also doing. We're gonna see some code that I've already written, but nonetheless, what really matters is that you get the concept, which is very important. So in this session, we're gonna look at a very simple hello world queue that is in Spring Boot, and the goal really is for us to write a simple possible producer and a consumer. So forgive me, they are in a monolithic application, but the idea is we just like trying to decouple services, so it doesn't really matter. So we have one who sends a message and then one who receives it, and this is a consumer. So and then we watch it happen in the UI. So for the UI bit, it's gonna be a bit tricky to watch it because it happens very, very fast. Remember, RabbitMQ processes I guess it's 10 to 50,000 messages per second. This depends on the hardware that you have, that you're running on, the broker is running on. But nonetheless, for a single message, it's gonna happen very fast, and we might not see it in action unless we introduce some slowlessness in the process. So what we are building is, so we have this sequence. We have we have this sequence. So we have a producer, we have a routing key, and then takes it to a direct exchange. Remember, we talked about exchanges, and then we have a binding text that's binding the exchange to the queue, and then we have a consumer who's kind of subscribing to a specific queue, and they get the message. So we have one queue, one exchange, one producer, one consumer, nothing else. So if you're starting out, so for this is just you bootstrap a very simple Spring Boot project, of course with the web dependency if you intend to expose a REST API, and then because ideally the user hits a specific endpoint on the user side to trigger the producer to emit an event. And then for us to play around with RabbitMQ, we need the Spring Boot starter AMQP from Spring Boot. And then what this gives you, it gives you a RabbitTemplate. So this is the one that helps us invoke the method convert and send. So you convert your messages into specific formats, and then you send them. And then you have a Rabbit listener. This would be used on the side of the consumer who's receiving the messages. So auto configuration for RabbitMQ as well. And there are a bunch of things that are set for you by default, even if you don't specify, but it's always good to be very specific with how you want things to look like. So for this case, of course, we go with the application name. This you already know. And now the new things that we're introducing is we're saying that we have this RabbitMQ, and then with RabbitMQ, you have a host, a port, username, and password. So again, remember, all of these are provided by default. So if you look at kind of the documentation, I'm gonna increase the font. It was, oh boy, just a second. Yep, this should be legible, and this is what we are looking. So leave alone this, the publisher, confirm type, and whatnot. So we disregard this for now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna comment them out, and then this is what we have. So host is localhost, port is 5672, username and password, and these are the defaults. So if you click on these properties, you'll get to see that this is where they come from. So they come from the Rabbit properties, and yeah, you need the specific values for them. So the default port is given there, the default host is that, the default username and password are those that are provided there for you. So if you don't list them, they're gonna be listed there for you. Okay, so that is the first things you need to do. Set up the dependency in your POM file, and then after setting up the dependency on your POM file, just for context so that you see I already have it. I have it here, and I have WebMVC. If you're using Spring Boot 4, it's changed from starter web to starter WebMVC. Then up next is this here. We look at this. So we need to create a place where we set the configuration. So for this case, we are referring to the configurations as where we get the queue, exchange, and also create a binding for them. So we'll do this. So what I'll do is I'll just come here. I already have this RabbitMQ config. So what I'll do is I'll just create a new config. Yeah, I'll just create a new config. But I won't use it. I'll just show you how it looks like. But we can just walk through it instead of creating another one because I already have one already. So for this case, if you're starting out, so this is what you're supposed to do. You create a RabbitMQ config in a configuration directory, and then you need a queue for that case. So remember, we have a producer, we have an exchange, and then we have a queue. So the queue that we'll be using for this case is gonna be called hello.queue, and don't hard code these values here. So in case you need to change the values, you always have like a central place where you change them from. You also have our exchange. It's gonna be a hello exchange, and then a routing key is gonna be hello.routing key. So remember, routing key is the one that binds the exchange to the queue. So how then do we create a queue? So a queue is a bin. So if you don't create it as a bin, it won't be detected, and you're gonna have some problems. Okay. So we create a queue like that, and then this is how we create a queue, and then we need the queue name, which is this hello.queue, and then true. This is for durable. So durable means setting durable to true means that even if our broker restarts, we'll still have the message if it was not it had not gotten to the consumer. That's the whole deal. And then the other bit is now we need an exchange. So for this case, we're using a direct exchange. We are using a direct exchange because we want to route the messages based on a specific queue. But if you don't want to route the messages based on a specific queue, you can go for other types of exchanges like fanout, name them. So we're going to use a direct exchange, and this just takes the name or that value for the exchange. And then afterwards, we now need to create a binding between the exchange and this. So there are various ways of creating the binding. One, you can parameterize this queue and the exchange. Alternatively, you can just invoke the method that I used to create the bins directly for you. So you pass in the queue and the exchange that you want to bind, and then you use a builder, you do a dot bind. So we are binding this queue, specific queue. So it's gonna take the bin that has been created here, and then you're binding it to an exchange, to that exchange, this exchange, and then with routing key, this is the routing key that will be used to kind of bind the two. So what is happening here is queue true declares a durable queue, and then this survives a restart, and then the direct exchange, it routes the message exactly based on the routing key matching. And then the binding builder, this links the queue to the exchange via the routing key, and then Spring will create this RabbitMQ on setup if they don't already exist. And yeah, that's pretty much what is already here. So like I said, this already contains a ton of things. As you can see, I've already written like 250 lines because I'm also kind of learning these concepts. So this is what I was talking about. You create them here, and then these are the bits for the first one. So we create a bin, and then this was called the queue name. If you look at queue, for example, how to create a queue, you create a queue name, and then you set the durability to either true or false, depending on how you, but you always have to, it's good you put them to durable true so that you survive the crash. And then secondly, step 3 is we need now the producer. So who's producing this message? So for this case, we have a producer directory, we have a hello.producer, and then this is where we inject the RabbitTemplate. So the RabbitTemplate, if you don't configure your own RabbitTemplate, if you just need a very specific, a very simplistic RabbitTemplate to work with for now, you just use you use this RabbitTemplate, and then Spring is gonna inject the default configurations for RabbitTemplate. But if you need to have extensibility and you need to add a bunch of configurations, so you want to set what happens if you want, like currently what I'm learning is the publisher also gets a confirmation that the consumer took the message or used the message. So if you want to have all these configurations, you have to create your own configuration of a RabbitTemplate, which we'll get there to sometime. And then now this is the message which you're going to send. So we need a method called send, and then you pass in the message. For now, just forgive me. We are using a very simple object, which is a string, but ideally you could pass any message. Could be a sign up event, could be anything that you want to pass. And then we do a RabbitTemplate.convert and send. And then here, what we need are three things. So because we are using a direct exchange, we're gonna need the exchange, we're gonna need the routing key, and then we also need the message that we want to pass, because the producer doesn't interact with the queue. So what the producer does, takes the message, takes it to the exchanger, and then the exchanger, based on the routing key, will route the message to a specific queue. I hope that makes sense. So what we are doing here is this is the core method you'll use constantly. Ideally, this is the method, this convert and send. So that's the method that you'll definitely 99% or 100% use it. So this is how it looks like. You just need the exchange name. So here I did a static import, the routing key for that case, and then you also need a message for that you're sending. And then we're almost there. So it converts the Java object to a string, and then string to bytes, and then it publishes it to the exchange specified with a specified routing key. And then we also need a consumer. So a consumer would look like this. It's just a simple component or a service. And then so we have a Rabbit listener. So we have the method that receives the message. So here you receive the message, and then you do a specific thing that you want to do with it. So you want to send emails based on a sign up event or whatnot. But now the most important thing is for this endpoint, for this consumer that is getting the message. So of course we are receiving a message, but now here, this is where we said we need the Rabbit listener. So the Rabbit listener is a meta annotation that takes in a specific parameter. So for this case, it needs the queues. So which queues is this method listening to? So it's listening to RabbitMQ config.queue for a specific queue. So we are doing this. I'm able to access this RabbitMQ config.queue because I have them in the same kind of project. But it could behave differently based on whatever. So Spring registers this method as a listener on the queue, so this specific queue that we defined. And then when a message arrives, Spring calls this method and passes the message body, and then the acknowledgement is sent automatically after the method returns without throwing. So if no throw happens, then we are good. So after that, we need a hello controller. So hello controller is just like to help us publish a message. So this is just a message that is calling the producer to publish a message. And then from there, we can just run and observe how things are behaving. So I can run that. So this is gonna take some good time to do so. Okay, the app is running now. So if I just come here, I'll come to RabbitMQ. So we have the hello. We have the hello queue. So this is the hello queue that has been created here. We have the hello queue here, and we can see it doesn't have any traffic. So if I try and do this thing, I don't know how fast it's gonna do it. So let's see if we're gonna see a message here. So I'll just do this and then come here. Get messages. Queue is already empty. So it already consumed the message. So it happens. Okay, we have the message here, and then it's gonna be consumed. So total, yeah, it's already disappeared. So if I get the message, the queue is empty. If I try again to run this, hello RabbitMQ, you can see if I get messages, the queue is already empty. So it does it like very, very fast. So if I, oh boy, if I get messages, yeah, it disappears in a very, 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 very fast time. So if I come here, I'd get to see I'm sending the hello RabbitMQ, and then the receiver gets it. So that is the consumer that gets the message. And that's pretty much the whole thing that you get with RabbitMQ, just like a very simple hello world. So when your consumer is running normally, so messages are consumed the instant they arrive. So it's too fast to see in the UI. So how you could slow this down is you could introduce a thread.sleep for 5 seconds, and then you can see how the message is doing. And then you can run this loop specific loop that is here, and then you can get to see how the interaction would look like. So at the very end, I have some questions here for you, so exercises that you can try. So I have a bunch of questions. So like, what happens when you send 10 messages in a loop from the controller? And then okay, you observe. So what do you see? What normally happens for this case? How are the messages processed? So you likely see the ready count flicker before hitting 0. So there's that step depending on how you put the thread.sleep. And then we also have what happens when you throw a runtime exception inside the receive, where you have your listener. So does the message come back or does it loop? So for this case, it's gonna loop till death do you part. So this is what we call a poison, and we don't want to do that. And then yeah, so that's pretty much it for this hello world section. I hope you got something out of it. And yeah, so see you in the next video where we'll be talking about the next concepts, which is gonna be working with worker queues. So getting to understand what worker queues actually mean. So yeah, this is worker queues. How do you get to distribute tasks into various queues? So thank you for listening up to this very point. I hope you have a lovely rest of the day. Have a good one. Bye.